we would just sit around the table and make jokes and just tease each other and laugh, and it was great. And I see that in the kids. I see it particularly in Brian. He and I banter sometimes, and it reminds me of his dad. And I'm really going to miss him. Let's see, just real quick here. I think he did a marvelous job at teaching his children to love and be human. And I picked up on that, and that means a whole lot to me, and have always taken me in and loved me as an aunt. And then the spouses and on it goes. So what I want to finally say is, I don't think there's a sister-in-law in the whole world who could have had a better brother-in-law, a more loving one, plus a sister-in-law. Thank you.
Just a couple of things. God really blessed me, giving me my brother Elwyn throughout the years. Did anyone know Elwyn when he was 2 years old or 1 year old? I think maybe there may be, but I think I'm about I think I knew Elwyn longer than almost anyone else here in this room, since he was 2 years older than I was, and so throughout life, I've always respected and admired Elwyn. Even as a little kid growing up, he was able to drive the tractor before I was, and so I knew he had a lot of ability. He was able to, as known him as he had developed a lot of skills in different areas that and we didn't. I don't recall having any time of arguing or fighting, but of course right now I might have forgotten, but I sure don't recall. So we I always enjoyed Elwyn, and he was it was nice for me. When the few times I was with him, he was always so much at a distance that we had to travel, maybe 1,000 miles just to get together, since he moved to Ohio. But I do relish the good times that we had together. And Elwyn was a leader, and he was a leader, and he became a real good mountain climber. And you saw in the movie the ones that he led up to the top of the Spanish Peak. I think it was called Spanish Peak. And I never could figure out how he developed that skill of walking up there without even having any path to follow. And I think that maybe I was the last one that he led up to the top. You saw the pictures of the different ones that were with him at the top. Well, I don't know if we have any picture, but I was with him at the top too, and I was a little bit concerned because he was saying, "Well, I think I remember how we go down, what direction to go," and the cabin was way down there, so we could hardly see it, anyhow, I started praying, and he got us down, Yeah.
That was because of our Swiss heritage on our mother's side.
Oh, Swiss heritage on our mother's side.
Short legs so we could go up and down mountains.
Oh, okay. Yeah, short legs so we go up and down. However, the one that we think of primarily that he took up there was Marilyn, and she doesn't fit into that category. Anyhow, I just appreciate him being one that throughout the years was I was able to be his brother, and I'm going to miss him a lot.
I want to talk a little bit about Dad's parenting skills. One of my favorite toys, I think might be a upper grade school or maybe junior high. I think he rewired a lamp, and there was a cord left over. So we took that cord, stripped the ends off, put a switch on it, and Dad said, "Here, use that, play with it." And so I could plug it in the wall and turn the switch and make things happen. So one of the things I learned about was fuses. So one day, Dad and I were at the house by ourselves. I was in my bedroom, he was in the garage working on the car, and I learned about fuses. So I thought, I'm going to make a fuse, see how those work. So I got a piece of wood, put 2 big spikes through it, got some aluminum foil, put it between the 2 spikes, hooked the wires up for my toy, and flipped the switch. We ran 110 volts through a strip of aluminum foil. Boom! It was a really, really loud bang. But I was in the closet, so it was safe. Dad was across the house, through the closed door and cinder block walls, in the garage. And he yelled out, "Brad, what was that?" I said, "I made a fuse." He said, "Don't do it again." Okay, Dad. Dad's parenting. Another time was another boring summer day, I think. Brian, Ed, best friend, and I were looking in the garage, and we found some old pulleys from the old garage Dad had replaced. And we found some rope. We fastened the pulleys to another rope with a handle, tied one end of the rope up in a tree, other end down to a telephone pole nearby, and made what we now know is called a zip line. And so we had fun with that, zipping down that thing, and it was great hanging down and flying down to the bottom. And then one time at the top, the pulley kind of just fell apart, and Ed was riding it, and he fell and broke his arm. So the next day we put it back together and played some more with it, which is what you do. And then Brian broke his arm. And that's when Dad said, take that down. And so we did. And the third time, nothing as dramatic as that, but of course Dad worked on cars a lot, saved the family a lot of money by taking care of stuff that, on his own, on farm skills and have to use. And we had a Chevy Monza for a while, and it needed a new clutch plate. And so Dad said, "Brad, we're going to change the clutch plate on this car." And the first thing you do is, after getting the car off the ground, of course, is you drop things down. He said, and famous last words, as I was about to drop it, he says, "Yeah, people tell me you're supposed to drain out the fluid first, but that doesn't matter." So we dropped it down, and what happens, all tiny fluid just kind of runs all over us, and we spent the next half of the day rolling around the deposition fluid. And we got the clutch plate replaced, and then we just went and threw our clothes away. And so he learned a lot by experimenting, by little failures here and there, but he figured stuff out, and that was really cool.
Elwyn was my grandfather, and he was a really fun guy. Whenever he would come over to our house, we live in Minneapolis, Minnesota, he would, when we were sleeping, we used to buy a bunch of candy and just hide it in our rooms while we were sleeping. So we got to wake up and we got to see candy everywhere. And that was really fun. And it was really fun because he would hide them in really small places. And I found some up to 2 years later. And it and it kind of makes your day. 2 years later you weren't expecting, and he's like, oh, I have a Reese's now. So that's fun. He was just really fun and really wanted to, give us a fun time. So yeah.
I'm Harold Winsinger, a cousin, and we grew up about 5 miles away from Elwyn, Marlin. So we spent a lot of time together, rode horseback over there, and they came over to our house a lot. It's one of the things that I thought about this morning, somebody's referred to here, and that was about transmissions and clutches. And Marlin was at a 49 or a 51 Mercury, do you remember?
Mercury?
The Mercury.
51.
51, yeah. But I still remember laying underneath that in the round top of the metal shed, putting a clutch plate in that with Elwyn. So we did that one, pull the transmission.
Experience.
Yeah, that was one of the early experiences. Yeah.
Maybe roll and transport.
Yeah, I think we drained the oil out that time. And the other thing that is brought to mind is that perpetual motion motor. I think that was something he talked about for his entire life, from small up. We always heard about it. He was just about that close to inventing perpetual motion motor. Just that close. I think he's got it now.
I think. Yes, he does.
Hi, I'm Jonathan. I am the grandson, or one of many grandsons. Sorry, not the. I just have a really simple story. I came out here maybe 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half, as my grandmother was in the last 6 months of life. And I was just amazed, incredibly impressed with his love and dedication to her in the midst of an incredibly difficult and trying situation. Just sitting by her bedside patiently as she's trying to communicate something but incapable of doing so, taking 5-10 minutes to get out a simple sentence. And he was just sitting there holding her hand, loving her well, not getting angry, not getting upset. And that was a vast majority of how he operated.
I'm Ivan White, and I didn't have a lot of time with Elwyn to really learn to know him or to know all the things that I've learned since. But I did take him to Wichita for treatments. And coming back one time, where the highway takes an adjustment because of the curvature of the earth, he said, oh, you know what? And I said, what, Elwyn? Well, you see that telephone pole? Yeah. He said, I missed it about this far, and then I went out into the field and realized that I had gotten off the road. But you know, he still drove his car after that yet some more. I think he would have been a race car driver. I don't know.
There were times, well, I wasn't aware, I don't remember it when we moved to Ohio. Wasn't there a drag race in the highway, the interstate? Yeah, and the country squire, family of 6, packed to the gills with whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know, he was racing, but
It's over 120 miles.
over 120 miles an hour in the country squire. So, yes.
Well, this is going to take a while. I'll give you a little background. Brother and I were born in Pretty Prairie on a farm, which is where Elwyn and Marlin grew up. I didn't really know Elwyn all that well, except for meeting him at church sometimes. But when I was 5 years old, my family moved to the heart of downtown Chicago. And I have my own stories to tell about that time of life, but I basically grew up roller skating on the streets of Chicago. But that's another story. From there we went to North Dakota, and from there to Oklahoma. And it was just before my junior year in high school in Muskogee High. We were visiting up here at Pretty Prairie, relatives and uncles and aunts and so forth. And I remember 2 or 3 times that my folks wanted to go visit their father.
Waldo.
What?
Waldo.
Yeah, Waldo. My dad's name was Waldo, and so was his. And and I remember several times that we visited there. And, I'm going to skip many years now. Elwyn confided in me just a year or two ago that he thinks that his parents thought that my parents and his parents were the only real Christians in the world. My parents had, of course, gone into Christian service in the ministry, and of course they were devout Christians. Anyway, back to the storyline. During that time when we were visiting relatives in Prairie Prairie, we were driving between one set of cousins and another. And Mom turned and asked me, how would you like to go to high school here in Hutchinson? You could have knocked me over with a proverbial snowball or whatever. And I thought, give me a minute to think. And about 10 seconds later, I said, yes, I'd like that. And so, before my junior year in high school, I basically left home for the rest of my life, except for going back home for vacation in the summertime or something like that. But I came here to Hutch and went to high school, and they had a program where if you were from out of town or you didn't want to drive back and forth all the time, you could stay in a dormitory at Siki Biki, we called it. And well, then I didn't know who was going to be my roommate. Turned out to be Elwyn Schrag. And that's when I started to know Elwyn. Some of these stories that I've heard are far different from stories I have to tell about Elwyn. I remember, well, one of the things I remember right away, you have to notice his humongous head of black hair. And the time he spent every morning preening his hair and putting the right smell on, and he wanted to impress the girls.
And he did.
And so that was, my time was spent a little studying and sports and so forth. His time was spent with the girls. But we got along well, and that was my junior year, his sophomore year. And but I remember one thing that stands out. I would demonstrate it, but most of you wouldn't be able to see. They had the idea that once every so often, one of the students would be featured as a solo part during chapel. And I remember the time that I sang, and then Elwyn said he was going to sing. And I thought, well, I hope he can do a good job. He was so nervous, and I knew he would be, because that's the way he was. But I sat in the back and watched him, and you literally could see his knees knocking like this while he was singing. But he got through it fine. Another remembrance that I had was when Marlon came to school. And I couldn't quite figure them out, because I've never seen such a difference between brothers. I said, is Marlon really your brother? Marlon was there to study and learn, and Elwyn had a different approach to life. I remember during our junior year, my junior year, I thought surely we ought to be able to have a boys' quartet here. And so I began to think about it and go over in my mind the voices that I was familiar with. And so as you saw for the 1 second that the quartet was on that movie upstairs or wherever it is, Elwyn was the baritone. I sang second, and Junior Miller was 1 year. Now, Junior, I actually was from around here, I believe. And then, of course, some of you recognize Jim Paul's singing bass. And believe it or not, it went quite well. And we sang at different places and really enjoyed that time. And then the next year, Larry took Junior's place, since he moved from Central Academy here to Essen to go to finish his high school. Now he's in Idaho, and we had a 50-year anniversary one time when we sang, the quartet sang at a school reunion. But that was I remember, by the way, because this is involved. As I said, some of us lived there, and we'd eat down in the dining room. Okay. We ate down in the dining room, and the boys were at this table, and the girls were over there at that table. Sorry, Ed. The girls were having a really great time. They were laughing and cackling, and I finally, I told Ellen, wait, watch. I went back in the kitchen and got the egg basket, took it out and put it right underneath Edna's chair. And then Edna, I don't know why, Ellen said that he didn't remember you from high school. And then we went on, we were at Grace Bible College together, and then I heard that someone told me that Elwyn was a pastor in Ohio. My reaction was, what? But I guess, we all develop as our personalities in different ways. Anyway, I knew Elwyn fairly well, except for these later years. And it's been nice to learn to know him again and to learn what he has accomplished in life.
Thank you so much. I have something here. Like I said, we have some people who are watching. And I have something here from Andres Tapia, who is our sister's husband, so son-in-law of Elwyn. My story, if it can be shared, which it can. So many reasons to be grateful for Elwyn in those deep and profound things, such as his acceptance of people from all walks of life and his love for Jesus. But I also want to pay tribute to all those many, many practical things he taught me I had no idea about, such as how to change the oil in our first car, a Toyota Corolla 85. Whenever he and Marilyn came to visit us, we would socialize, eat, play with Marcella, and fix things around the house. Gracias, Elwyn.
My name is Beth, and Elwyn was my uncle. And we had the opportunity to see him as a musician, got to see him as a loving caregiver, and also in times where he was needing the care. So I saw both sides of that of him. And, excuse me, got to see him as a client. I was able to cut his hair, I think only one time. And but he was sitting in my chair and I was cutting away and everything, and he didn't say much. So I visited with Marilyn, and later we went over at my mom's, and Elwyn said, well, Beth does a really nice shop. She does a really good job. She has a good atmosphere. It's real relaxing, and you can visit, but it's just real relaxing. I said, well, good. Well, I realized he had gone to sleep when I was cutting his hair. So I'm like, yeah, real relaxing. So I thought that was just funny. It was so relaxing. I also got to see him on the mechanic side. I got to change a tail light with him. My mom's light had gone out, and so in Dallas we worked on it to figure out how to get to the light to even change it. It was crazy, but we got it done. And so that was fun, being able to work with him that way. And with his hair, I'll always remember how he could be in the wind in Kansas, Oklahoma, no matter where. The wind would be blowing crazy, and his hair might be tousled, but he could just pat it. And it was perfect. How did he do that? I'm just, okay, it's done. Lots of hairspray. Well, that I will always remember him just patting his hair, and it was done. We also got to see him, my husband and I, Eric, we have a ranch over in Oklahoma, and he wanted to come out and help us brand. And we're like, yeah. So he and Marilyn came out, and we really had a nice time. And he had his own cowboy hat. We had some extras, and so we found one that fit him just right. And he had his boots and jeans, and we went out there, and he was right in the middle of it. He was hustling and making sure that his job was getting done. So we had that opportunity to see that side of him also. And I'm thankful for his stubbornness, because I think that it made life better, because he was so intent on making things good or finishing the project and stuff. So I appreciated his stubbornness.
Hi, I'm Lydia, and I am Barb and Brian's daughter. So going off the hair thing, when we were little, Julia and I used to take his hair and make the craziest hairstyle possible, because he had kind of a lot of it back then. But I just remember that we had a lot of fun memories, and he was very easy to joke with, and a lot of fun being on the younger side of the grandchildren.
My name is Elwyn Schrag, and I've known Elwyn a good deal of my lifetime. We spent all of elementary school together in the same class, and people thought we were twins, because we both had dark, you can't tell by looking now, but I had dark hair too, just like he did. Only his was curly, and I was jealous as could be. Mine was stick straight. But we did a lot of our elementary school life together, and I remember one time going to his house on a Sunday afternoon. My family went to visit with him, and he gave me a motorcycle ride out in the country, which I've never forgotten. My one and only motorcycle ride. And they didn't have helmets in those days either. So anyway, that's all I have to share.
I have one here from daughter Lori, the one who's unable to be here today. It's short, but it's good. Dad was so passionate about music. Rumor has it that in order to have perfect harmony, he forced Mom to give birth to a soprano, alto, tenor, and a bass. So, worked out pretty well, actually. Yeah, Brian's the bassist of us all.
That'd be all right.
I'm Barb Schrag, I'm Brian's wife, and I think of Elwyn as a peacemaker or trying to mediate. there are different times when some of us would have conflicts, and he would always step in and try to help us see the other person's side and how we could get along together and be friends and enjoy each other, and I appreciate that.
Whenever I was going through hard times, Dad would write me a dad advice letter, and it was very meaningful. He would put a lot of thought into it, and I was very grateful for that. He really paid attention and make all of his points, and it was all very logical. Logic, as you might know, was all about, that's what he was about, in theory anyway. Everything had to be logical. But yeah, he put a lot of energy and just, he cared. He put a lot of energy into whatever he did. And I really was especially grateful for the letters he wrote me.
Hi, I'm Cassie. I'm a great niece. And I remember him as being really fun-loving. He's good with the kids. And he would always give me a hard time because we didn't really see each other very much. So he had to make it memorable, I guess. So whenever we were out at the cabin, he would take me out hiking. And we'd be going down the trail. And I'm a little bitsy sometimes, and I'd be like, oh, that's a pretty flower, and he's a nice guy, so he'd stop, oh, that's a pretty flower, and by the time I'd run off, he'd always give me a hard time, you're trying to ditch me, trying to get rid of me, aren't you? So he'd always give me a hard time about that. That's funny.
I'll say maybe one last thing here then. And continue with the theme of logic and reason and persistence and not giving up. Yeah, you know it. One of the last things Dad said to me actually was after we got him moved into hospice on the Friday, whatever that was, and he was still kind of agitated. But I was sitting on the bed next to him, and he looked at me and said, "I need more information, more intelligence. Sorry, I need more intelligence." And I laughed, and I also knew exactly what he was saying, what he was doing. He was trying to figure out what to do, how to fix this, how to take care of it so he could go on with life, and go on and be with Edna, go on and be with us. And so he still wasn't giving up even at that close to the end. And that was a trait of his too. But yeah, it was a great insight at the end, a reminder of a big part of who he was and some really important aspects of who he was. Yes?
I'm Walt Friesen, and I just know of his wonderful care for Marilyn. And this was a case in which he couldn't fix it. And the grace with which he lived, not being able to fix it, was really the story that most touches my heart. And I am very grateful for that. I was familiar with the family through the N's side.
Okay, let's stand. And actually, yeah, I'll sing what I know. If I miss it, please fill in the gaps. And it's always a danger having a high tenor start in this song, so I apologize if it's too high. Jesus, 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 there's just something about that name. Master, Savior, Jesus, like a fragrance after the rain. Jesus, 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 let all heaven and earth proclaim. Kings and kingdoms will all pass away, but there's something about that name.
Let's pray together. Jesus, we do recognize that your name is the name which we turn to in times of joy, in times of sorrow, in times of need of comfort, and in times of celebration. And you have been there from beginning, and you have made it possible for us to be there to the end. Thank you. And as we remember Elwyn, as we go and carry memories with us, we know that, as we've heard, his desire would be that we would be with you, Jesus, as he is, that we would be reunited. So guide us as we go, and thank you for the wonderful family that he and Marilyn have led and shared with us. Guide all of us to that great reunion when we will all join together for eternity. Amen.